Welcome to the Smart Sales Solutions podcast, where we learn to implement intelligent solutions in a complicated marketplace with your hosts, Don Cunningham and Rich Rudnick.
Welcome, everyone, to the Smart Sales Solutions podcast. Our topic today is mastering the art of overcoming objections. I'm your host, Rich Rudnick, and with me is Don Cunningham. Don, great to have you here today.
Nice to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, anytime. It's always a pleasure. And it's kind of interesting. I think you know, knowing me as you do, that this is my favorite subject. You know, I could talk about this on and on. It was kind of interesting that you had to overcome my objections just to do this podcast. You did a really good job, by the way.
Yeah. So why are we doing it over again?
Right. Well, that was a sound issue, but hopefully this
right.
will be taken care of. So that was.
I was just giving you a hard time.
Right. Well, that's always good. And I know you do, and I probably deserve it. It's interesting as we go through this that as coaching with all of our clients and so forth, I notice a trend, and you tell me if you see that as well. But two things. Objections are usually where the sale fails most, and I think that's why you really wanted us to do this. Right. We're not talking about we have a sales process we go through, but we're not jumping right to this. And that we're usually one or two questions away from making a sale and don't realize it. So I do want to cover on that today. But let's start with the number one reasons why businesses fail. Why is that? What's the number one reason? And by the way, this is for everyone, right? Okay. So in any industry.
All right. This is going to blow you away. This answer is so complicated. Right. I mean, probably nobody else knows this, but they fail due to a lack of sales.
Yeah, this was a softball, right? I really lobbed you a soft one on that one.
Appreciate that.
But you're so right. And, you know, I in my coaching client mix currently, I counted up, there's over 14 different industries represented. That's why this conversation is for any industry, right? And whether it's a business owner or any sales professional, and all of this applies. But when I'm debriefing in my sessions on transactions, and I'm sure you do that with your clients, do some transaction analysis, I always try to get into why the sale didn't happen. And usually what I find is there's an objection that if they were properly equipped, or if they thought at the time, because it's easy to armchair quarterback all this stuff, right? Right. You and I can really look like heroes, but we have that benefit of looking back and asking questions. We're not in the heat of the moment. Emotions aren't overtaking us, but usually we're one or two away. And if they had been better prepared, they could have overcome it. And in very many cases could have actually won the sale or the day. So usually it's getting better prepared for the next time that comes up. Sometimes we can come back and try to save the sale, right, with another phone call or so forth. And this is so crucial for everyone's success. We do a lot of training on this, right? We've talked about this. But today I want to focus on the art of overcoming objections, and that's why we call it that. So now I have an observation.
If it's an art, then mastery is part of that art, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You got to bring that up.
Well, exactly. And that's where I think we need to really focus and bring those two together. So I also have an observation, and I want you to clarify that up, is that too many actually have a fear of receiving objections. So why don't you clarify a few things? Give us some objection definitions, and what's the deal with the fear, and how can we overcome that?
Well, I think, when it comes down to being afraid, the average person who doesn't have any sales background will be afraid because they look at that as oh my goodness, they don't want to buy from me. And an objection isn't a no, it's a request for more information. And so when you look at if you're not prepared for objections, then you get that deer in the headlight look that says, I don't know. It's like, And when you do that, then you're obviously going to lose a sale because it comes back to questions. It always comes back to questions. And if I don't know is not a question, it's a statement. So
that's a good point. Very good point. And just a real quick comment on that. The fear is what? Probably rejection is one of them. Rejection. And we have to separate and isolate that because they're generally not also rejecting you either. Right. So we have to win that battle of the mind as we're going through that. But that's excellent. But there's objections and conditions. So you're explaining objections. What's the difference? And is there a difference?
Well, objections are, again, they are things that they're reasons or they're statements that say, I don't like this. And yet they're actually saying, I don't like this, but if you've got a better idea. And so when somebody says, I don't like the color of the carpet, they're not saying no, they're just saying, I wouldn't buy this house because of the carpet. So that's an objection. I can handle that objection by just simply saying, what if we could get you a different color carpet, brand new, brand new.
Right.
I just pretty much overcame that objection. Doesn't mean that there aren't others.
Right.
But there, again, I want to pull out those objections one at a time and make sure I've got something to work with still.
Right.
Now, if they came back and they said, you know what, we told you we wanted a 3-bedroom house, and the third bedroom didn't have a closet. It was only 9 by 9. That's a condition. And in most cases, it cannot be overcome. So I want to be able to go, okay, is there anything else that would have kept you from buying this house, writing an offer today besides that 1 bedroom? Because I'm looking for information. I'm looking to find out, look, this deal is gone, and I have to acknowledge that. I'm not trying to sell them this house anymore. I'm trying to find out if there's anything else that would keep them from, maybe there's something they left out. So I don't want to waste my time showing them stuff that doesn't work.
Right. So I think good point. So a condition is a valid reason they can't move forward. An objection is not no, that we want more information.
Right.
Or to request for more information. If we satisfy their needs, the answer could be yes. So you're making some good analogy points and giving some good role modeling and role playing on how to overcome that objection. I would say in your analogy that 1 bedroom, small closet or small bedroom closet may be a condition, maybe not. I think what you were doing is you were testing to see, is it a condition or not? With other than that bedroom, are there any other concerns? If we could overall satisfy your needs and show the overall value of the home and everything else, would you be willing to move forward knowing the condition of the 1 bedroom, right? But if they can't, then you're right. Then that becomes that condition. But the other points that you were making are really valid. It's kind of like peeling back an onion. There are many layers, aren't there?
Right.
In objections. And that's where I say we're usually 1 or 2 questions away from making a sale and don't realize it because we haven't gotten deeper into the why, the heart of the why, or the why not, or why we can't. So we want to learn how to really do that and be okay with that, because when you're at this point of the sale, as we're kind of demonstrating here, we're far along.
Right.
We're right at the end, and we've earned the right. We if we've done our job correctly, and this isn't an entire podcast on selling skills, but one of them is pre-qualifying prior to the presentation. If we had pre-qualified effectively and hard and delivered that dynamic presentation, we've earned their right, and we need to probe deeper because we're not doing them any favors by letting them off the hook unresolved. And that's where too often people think, oh, I don't want to come across as pushy. It's not about being pushy. It's about meeting their needs, right?
Right. You remember when I asked you right after that, I said, is there anything else?
Yeah.
Well, I live in Minnesota, and this driveway is way too steep. I don't know what we would do.
Right.
So
in the
now
winter,
I find another condition, and so we're going to move on. So.
Yep. No, that's good. All right. So let's talk about the fear. So we know we have an objection and a condition. So we're not going to waste time. If it's a condition, we're not going to be a hero, try to be a hero where nothing will take place. Let's talk about the fears. We talked about maybe the fear of rejection. are there key ways to overcome them? And maybe share what we do with our clients.
Well, I think, when you first of all, objections are not a no.
Yep.
Okay, we know that. They're a request for more information. Second, if you're prepared in advance for objections, you're not going to be afraid. So there is some preparation. When you're brand new in an industry, whether it's real estate or cars or whatever it may be, when you're new, you don't have all of the information because you don't have experience in the industry. So until you learn and grab enough knowledge about that product, then it's hard to deal with those objections. But once you realize that you've got some clear understanding of what you've got as far as a product, then you can overcome those objections. And we do that with questions. If you overcome objections, you're one step closer to a sale.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And if you don't master objection handling, you're one sale away from getting out of the industry.
Yeah, exactly. It's that razor sharp, isn't it?
It really is.
All along the way. And again, we're not teaching core selling today. There are several steps, and we'll probably do other podcasts highlighting those other steps. But we see those objections all the way through the process.
Right.
And if we don't learn how to master those, we're going to exit out way earlier than we should.
Yeah, like you said, these are just part of what we deal with. I mean, there are a number of things, creating instant rapport. I mean, we've got to do that. We've got 10 to 30 seconds to create rapport.
Yeah.
We've got, want to pre-qualify easy or pre-qualify hard to sell easy. And without that in there, then we're still missing a piece, and then deliver a dynamic presentation. And you won't make a sale if you haven't mastered the art of overcoming objections.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
absolutely. And we're receiving them all the way through. So why do we call overcoming an art? Talk about that.
Why do we call overcoming an art?
Overcoming objections an art, right? So we said the art of overcoming. Yeah.
Because with overcoming objections is one of the keys to actually closing a sale. If I can't overcome the objections, the chances are the sale will die maybe 2 steps away or 2 questions away from actually being asked, which means that you walk away with nothing. And look, I think that the other thing that's really important is that we have to understand that people are looking, they want to be led through this process.
Right.
They're not doing this to test you, but you better be prepared.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Absolutely.
So as far as the objection handling portion of this, you need to recognize that it's not only objections are not only a no, but because they're a request for more information, they're still hanging in there. They might want to buy this thing, whatever it is. And because you decided that objection offended you or hurt your feelings or you didn't know the answer, you walk away with nothing.
Right.
Both of you.
Yeah. No, that's really good. That's good. I think something else, let's think, we talk about mastering objections and overcoming the art, the art of overcoming objections. So mastery and art. Let's think about refining our craft. I think in sales and in business, we receive those objections all the time. We almost try to shy away from the word sales. We try almost apologetically to go out of our way to act like we're not in sales or that we're not a sales professional. And the reality, and with our clients and with our company name, we want people to embrace the word sales because the number one reason why businesses fail is lack of sales.
Right.
So we want to help our clients master sales in an ethical way with high values, but learn the skill. It takes practice, doesn't it? I mean, if we think of professional athletes, we think of artists, we think of musicians, practice way more than they actually perform.
Right.
And so we need to learn and embrace that too. We need to study and perfect and master and role play and rehearse and really get our language down.
Right.
So that when we are in the heat of the battle, we're able to respond effectively, and we're planned. We're not canned. We're not worried about what they're saying or thinking or what we're going to say next. We already know what we're going to say. So what happens, I think, in essence, is getting ourselves to the place of unconscious competence. So when we're receiving those, we know because we've practiced and practiced and practiced. And I think that's what separates, I think, the masters, frankly, the master objection handlers. They've taken the time, they've refined that craft, and they're ready at any step, how to roll through, how to receive it. And I think that's where we want to go.
Yeah, you brought up a point there, the unconscious competence, and that's where we want to, every one of us want to get to. That's mastery. And when we start off, and this is another reason why there's fear, is because you start off with conscious incompetence.
Yeah.
You don't know how bad you suck.
Yeah.
And that's where canned presentations come off as canned presentations.
Right.
And the more comfortable you get, and that's where the practice comes in, the easier it is. They're your words, they're not somebody else's.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. No, that's so good. So you were explaining the sales process, right? Building rapport in 10 seconds or less over the phone, or 30 seconds face-to-face. Right. That's what we have. We'll talk about that another time. You mentioned pre-qualifying, hard to sell easy. We don't spend enough time pre-qualifying. We end up presenting to underqualified, undermotivated leads all the time. And then how to really deliver that 6-step dynamic presentation to the key decision makers with that upfront contract up front, asking them to move forward if they like what they hear, and being last. When we do all those steps and we manage the objections properly after delivering that dynamic presentation, the likelihood of the sale consummating right there should be 75% or greater. That's not always the case as we go through there. But let's talk about the skills, since we're talking about the art of overcoming objections. So mention the skills to implement that will make someone a master of overcoming objections.
Okay, so we got to validate their concern.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
That's right.
Right?
Yep.
Okay, we got to validate their concern. We got to let them know that we understand what they're saying.
Yep.
We have to ask open-ended questions.
Yeah.
And this is kind of a key area. When you think about open-ended questions will end up with a significantly longer answer than, and here's a closed-ended question, and we've all dealt with this if you've got kids. How was school today?
Right. Fine. It was great.
Sucked, whatever,
It was okay.
And then they walk away. That's a closed-ended question. Mm-hmm. But when you say, how was school today? That's a closed-ended question. And they say, fine. You can follow that with an open-ended question like, well, tell me what was so good about it. Tell me what was fine about it. What did you do? Because these require more than a yes or no answer.
Correct. Yep.
So you can ask a closed-ended question, but understand the results aren't going to be very valuable. So you can follow up with that closed-ended question with an open-ended question, with open-ended questions. Mm-hmm. And so, we have to practice active listening. Mm-hmm. Again, the family dynamic is we're more likely to listen to our clients than we are to our family. I hope we're willing to listen to both, because there's implications both ways when we don't, right? Right. But I'm just giving kind of an overall. This is an area where, the very people that we care the most about, we don't practice as much at active listening.
Right.
And when you don't, that brings challenges into the family dynamic.
Right.
The same thing is true with your clients. If you're actively listening, you will hear what they say. And in order to listen actively, you have to be able to repeat it back. Let me see if I understand what you're saying. Mm-hmm. And when you can say stuff like that, and then tell them what you said, because this is what I heard. That is active listening. Right.
That's great. Those are really good analogies. Exactly. And what are the other two? Go ahead. What were you going to say?
The challenge with that is that many of us want to talk and share what we know rather than listen and learn what we don't know. Does that make sense? Zig Ziglar said it best: people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. I can't show you that I care unless I'm going to ask you questions about you. That shows that I care. So we've got practice. We got validate their concern, ask open-ended questions, practice active listening, and then identify, isolate, and overcome. Identify the objection, isolate it, put it into one single box. That's all we're going to talk about, and then overcome that objection. Does that make sense?
Yeah, those are great. And you're giving some good analogies. And let's should we give some examples? Should we maybe role play through some of those and go a little deeper?
This again?
Oh, of course. I love that. We're going to do it. We're going to do it well. So let's talk about the right and wrong way, right? On validating concern. So those are great ones. We'll go deeper here on validating concern, ask open-ended questions, practice active listening, identify, isolate, and overcome. So those are the art, right?
Right.
Key to the art of overcoming objections. So validating their concern. Very often people have heard, feel, felt, found. And that's what I want to, maybe we'll role play that a little bit. There's a right way and a wrong way to do that. Maybe you can correct on the wrong way. I'll try to do the right way. But
you're going to do the right way?
Well, you tell me if I do it the right way. I'm sure you'll let me know. But
okay, so what are we going to role play here?
Well, let's just say we're getting an objection with a financial planner, and they're being shopped. They're in that.
You're the financial planner.
I'm the financial planner, and before I make it, the objection is before I make a decision, you would be the prospect. I want to visit 4 of your other competitors. I'm meeting with 3 or 4 others, right? Before I make a final decision.
Yeah.
And
that's that's my view. Okay.
That would be your objection coming in. So we'll just, for time's sake, just say you mentioned that to me. And I would come back and say, Don, I absolutely understand how you feel. I've actually had other current clients of mine who have said the same thing to me. And what they found after meeting with other competitors of mine, that when they look at the overall value and service, that ours is the best. And I'm sure you'll find that as well. And so before you do that, how about we take some time to go over a little further our feature benefits and find out exactly what it is you're looking for in your planner to help you make a good decision before you come back. Is that fair? Can you take a few extra minutes for that?
Sure. Yeah.
To do that. So real quick. So what I'm doing here, I'm buying time. Okay.
Right.
So I want to validate their concern. I understand how you feel. We've all had prospects who have told us that, right? You have, I have. So that's true. What our current clients have found would be anyone that has done that our values overall best, otherwise they wouldn't be doing business with us. So we could all say that that's really true. And then we want to find out a little bit further. So I'm going to suggest that that's probably early to mid into the pre-qual process. I want to dig in a little deeper on who it is they want to compare, who they're looking at. I'm never going to say anything contrary to them. I want to find how they chose them, what they are looking for in a financial planner, how they're going to measure success. And then I'm not going to give them any of the details of the presentation, but I'm going to ask to be last at that point, because they're not going to do any business today. And I probably would say, well, you got too much work to do. But before I give any of the keys to the kingdom here and my intellectual property secrets, I'm going to reserve that for the presentation so that they have to come back. So I'm going to suggest that, and let's role play into that. So Don, let me make a suggestion now that I know your competitors and I know what you're looking for and how you're going to measure success. Could you do me a favor? Would you give me the courtesy of being last, since I'm the first one in, to set your meeting appointments with those folks, and then, or let's set our meeting appointments far enough out so that you get a chance to meet with them. Is that fair? Are you okay with doing that?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, sure.
Okay. So in these early cases, it's usually easy to get that yes. I mean, why not? Somebody's got to, right? So we're not at the point of closing the sale. What we're trying to do is secure our position, because usually now, if we're getting, I want to compare, let's do this scenario though. Let's say they want to compare, you want to compare against 3 or 4 of the competitors after the presentation. That's a different deal, isn't it?
Right.
And let's say I was last. So, but what we're going to do is we're going to segment that and remind me to come back when we do identify, isolate, and overcome. All right. So we use that same scenario.
Okay.
For identify, isolate, and overcome at the end of the presentation. So we'll go ahead and do that. But that's did I do that right? Feel, felt, found? Was that the right way?
Well, you missed one part. You basically said, I know how you feel. Other people have seen
Or felt the same way. Or felt the same way, yeah.
Felt is really what felt. Other people have felt the same way.
Okay.
Here's what I've found, or here's what they've found, and then kind of go to that. But you did fine. I was just being a little
you're always
critical.
Yes.
Critical.
You're good at that, by the way. You're really good.
Thank you.
So
I don't think that's a compliment.
No, I was. It was a compliment. I was giving you a compliment on that. What's the wrong way on feel, felt, found?
I would imagine I know how you feel, but that's tough.
Yeah. So you say invalidate. Right. The wrong way is to invalidate the concern and say, I understand how you feel, but. So never say, I understand how you feel, but, and we're going on. That invalidates the concern. It's, I understand how you feel, and. So that was good. That was a good role play on that. On your open-ended questions.
Yes, sir.
There's open and closed-ended. The goal is to get them talking.
Right.
And
absolutely.
So this is going to tie in with practice active listening. So we can kind of role play into both of those. And you made some really key points. Too often we think that successful selling is being a great talker.
Right.
The reality is successful selling is what we call the 20-80 rule, right? So 20% asking questions and 80% practicing active listening.
Right.
We need to learn how to ask questions, good questions, the right questions. Some are open-ended, some are closed-ended.
Right.
By the way, if you're ever stuck and you don't have all of your objection handling scripts down, one of the key ways to roll through that is to ask why. John, do you mind my asking why? Or what is it about, and restate their objection that concerns you the most or is keeping you from moving forward today? Or
you seem to have a really, really strong opinion about that. Where does that come from, Rich?
Right. Excellent.
Where's that coming from?
That's right.
Again,
totally good one. Right. That's excellent. So where does that come from? Why, or what is it about? What we're trying to do is get to the heart of the objection. We can also go back and use identify, isolate, and overcome to unpack that too. And so we can use that as an example. So let me use open-ended question back to you instead of feel, felt, found. You're shopping against 3 or 4 of my competitors. So Don, which of my 3 or 4 competitors are you wanting to compare me against?
Well, you're kind of a small guy, no offense. I mean, you're kind of independent shop, and I'm talking with Merrill Lynch, and, they're certainly worldwide. So they must be pretty good, would you think?
No question. Merrill Lynch has an excellent reputation. Actually know some planners, not so much in this market, and others that I actually went to school with, and just an excellent firm. What is it about Merrill Lynch that interests you the most? And do you know anyone specifically at Merrill Lynch?
Yeah, I have a friend who works there, but not in the financial planning area, but they're an analyst. So
okay,
nice.
But what is it about Merrill Lynch that interests you the most?
I like the bull.
Right. So the concept of being bullish and being proactive and so forth, they've done a good branding job. What is it about me as an independent that concerns you the most?
Well, I don't know. Maybe you're not as connected as this worldwide company.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So I want to explain where and how we're connected. Tell me what about that is important to you?
I just want to make sure I'm getting the best advice, I guess.
Okay. Right.
And price.
Sure. So along the way and in the process, and then when we're meeting for our presentation later, if I can go over where and how I'm connected and the resources that we get our information from, that's going to be important too, right? You're going to want to hear and know that.
Right.
So we compare that.
More like the Reader's Digest version. I don't need to know all the hows and whys, but.
Sure. So we're not closing a sale here, but what I'm trying to do is unpack objections at the pre-qual stage before my presentation so I can deal with that. And what I did is I asked 2 or 3 open-ended questions and ended in with a closing question. So it is going to be important for them. And another question I would say, so Don, at the end of the day, if everything was equal, but or you liked everything about me and our services, and if you saw that my sources were credible and the advice that you were receiving was as good or better than Merrill Lynch, you would at least consider doing business with me. I'd at least be in the running at that point. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, you got a couple things going for you that Merrill Lynch doesn't. You know, I mean, I would assume I could pick up the phone and call you and get right through.
Absolutely. You actually answered the objection yourself, right? And what I would do then is validate that. You're absolutely right, Don.
Right.
That is true. And my other clients have said that, who have been at larger wirehouses, have confirmed that as well. And you'll find that as well. So different ways of using open-ended questions. Let's get really good at asking questions they can't say yes or no to. That requires them to speak more as we're doing that. Let's talk about active listening. Remember I said the 20-80 rule. Asking questions, practice active listening. Too often we're over-talking our clients, our prospects. It's really important that we hear, whether we're in the food delivery service business, wholesale, it doesn't matter. We need to listen to our prospects. That's part of validating them too. And there's 2 key ways of doing that. One is taking notes. You mentioned that. The other is if you're on the phone, or even if you're face-to-face, maybe you have your laptop or keyboard with you, it's typing notes. And let them know up front. In fact, especially in the early stages of the pre-qual, John, in order to serve you better, it's going to require me to ask you some questions. And I'm actually going to take notes so I can retain what you're saying, and that'll be helpful in serving you in the future. May we continue? And usually they'll say yes. If they say no, that could be the pre-qual. We may have an issue right there. But I will tell you, when we go deeper in the pre-qual, which is a different subject in and of itself, and we're practicing active listening, writing notes, because what they say matters. If we're asking the questions, there's a reason for it. We can't memorize all of it, so we need to either write notes or use the keyboard. They'll be more validated than your prospects who are under asking questions, because most people don't ask enough, and really not knowing their needs. And by the way, meeting 3 greatest needs are one of the keys on there. So I can't stress enough on practice active listening to do that and the importance of it. But let's dive into identify, isolate, and overcome. Let's go back to that scenario where I need to think about it, and I need to go back to our competitors after the presentation, even though we fleshed it out at the pre-qual. And I'm asking for the sale. Are we ready to move forward? Are we ready to transfer your assets, move your assets over? And why don't you just go into I need to think about it. So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I appreciate it. You were, I've got all the information from all four of you guys, and I like what you had to say. And, I think that my wife and I just need to think about it for a day or two, and we'll get back to you.
Absolutely. Well, listen, first of all, thank you so much, Don, for just giving me the opportunity to meet and the hopeful potential of serving you. I hope we get to earn your business. I just want to make sure at this point, because usually people are ready to move forward. I also want to make this as safe and risk-free for you and your wife, that I've done my job correctly. And I just want to make sure that I also understand and give you all the information. What is it specifically you need to think about?
Well, it's a good question. What do you think?
Deferring to his wife, because the nice thing is you're there together. We want to be presenting to all key decision makers.
Right. Yeah. Well, I guess we don't need to think about it, but my wife just gave me a thumbs up. So let's get this over with. I've spent 3 nights, and I missed 3 good nights of TV, and I want to get back to it.
So we'll get on it. So we'll go ahead. So you made that easy on this. Let's, if we're
tougher.
Yeah. So as we come through and we think about it, just maybe make sure that that going your direction is the right one for us. So we can just use that one. I totally understand and appreciate that. And I want to make sure if any move we're doing, you feel confident and safe and secure. Let me just back up and ask one more question. Scale 1 to 10, 10 being high. Where are you on moving forward and doing business with me?
Maybe a 7.
Thank you for your honesty. I appreciate that. What's the 3 that's keeping you from being a 10 right now?
Well, unfortunately, you'll never get to a 10 with me.
Mm-hmm.
That's just who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's always room for improvement.
Mm-hmm.
I do have some things I want to think about. I want to go through and compare each one price-wise and everything like that.
Sure.
So I want to make sure I'm making a wise decision. So, yeah, I just need a day or two.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I want to give that to you, and you need it. So let's go ahead and schedule our next time to meet. I have Thursday at 2 available, or Friday at 9. Do either of those times work?
Yeah, I'll take the Friday at 9.
Let's go Friday at 9. Let's put that in there so we get that. Now, to help you with that, I would be happy to go over with you the numbers, if you have the numbers on what they're saying from your competitors, to show you in a comparison. So now you know how to think and process, because it can be kind of confusing as well. Do you have those numbers that we could go through so we could compare? It's really important that we compare apples with apples. It's also possible that you're getting a better option. And at the end of the day, I do want you best served. I hope it's with me, but I would be happy to compare your proposals together. And that gives us the opportunity to do that. And we could take that now, and then that'll give you more clarity on and compare. I have a process that I could take you through to compare. Would you like to do that now?
Well, it's kind of been a long night, and I appreciate that. Let's go with the Friday appointment.
Sure.
We'll do the Friday appointment, and I'll take a look at those, and I'll bring those to you on Friday.
Okay, fair enough, and we'll go through this.
So we can make something happen.
You bet, absolutely. So just before you leave, so we have clarity.
I'm not leaving. You are.
Specifically, what do you need to think about?
Did I just tell you that?
Besides so you want to compare that, you want to think about the numbers. Is there anything else besides the numbers? Just getting that chance to do that. Is there anything else?
No, your presentation was great. You know, I appreciate it. I'm probably leaning your direction.
Okay.
I'm just not going to, I'm not making a final decision on Friday morning.
Right. No, I get that. We're going to do that. The only reason I asked that, Don, is I just want to make sure if there's anything to clear up. So it sounds like the only thing you want to do is compare the numbers that you have with the other options. There's anything holding up. If you were to rank us in order of the ones you've talked to, based on what you know so far, is there anyone else that would rank higher than a 7 in your mind? I know no one will rank a 10. Is there anyone else that would rank an 8?
No.
Okay. So no one else would be any higher than us at this point.
Right. Not at this point, no.
Okay. Excellent. Well, I'll see you Friday at 9:00. Can I also ask that if anything changes to let me know, and if you want to move sooner, if you have questions, that you let me know.
Yes.
Okay. Excellent. And then we are set for 9:00 on Friday. Is there any reason we couldn't get together today? Maybe if I excuse myself, gave you and your wife 30 minutes to chat through. We can certainly do Friday. Is there any reason we couldn't do today?
Yeah, there is.
Okay.
Late. I don't want to talk anymore.
We'll see you Friday at 9.
Okay, thank you.
So you're being tough. Now, here's the thing on, first of all, you're modeling a steady compliant behavior. So I want to make it safe, risk-free. At the initial time you went in, I gave you the 9:00 time, right? So we got on there. So you knew you were safe on that. What I want to do to make sure is there wasn't anything in the closet. I did want to make sure there was nobody else scoring ahead of me, right? To make sure on that. I did want to give that one last chance on there, but I want to hear from you in going through the process. How were you feeling? How did you respond? And I'm glad that you took me into that steady compliant mode.
So was there a question there?
The question was, how did you feel as the client at the end?
Well, I think behaviorally, I think you have to be a little bit careful, seriously. And I say that not because I'm critical, but I'm an influencer steady. And I think there's a point where there can be frustration, almost like you're selling too hard. I'm just saying that you're a high dominant influencer and you are what I consider a master at objection handling. I think you're one of the best. I've told you that a number of times. From the other side of this, sometimes once you get all the way down the line, sometimes it feels a little bit of a hard sell. And I don't think you did anything wrong. I just think that sometimes we look at that and we go, when I compare you to me, I'm a softer sell. I probably would have left as soon as I got the 9:00 appointment. But you have valid points, so I'm not saying you're wrong.
Right. Well, so, and I'm glad we're bringing up the behavior selling mix. So too often, the reason why I took those extra steps is because too often we let people off the hook too easy, and we don't understand there's too much indecision being done. So I just want to make sure I've done everything on my own. Again, coming back, there's maybe a few things I could have said differently. Again, being in the heat of it, just like a prospect or a client is. But I think the point is, I took the pressure off of the sale by going to the 9:00 on Friday and asking the other questions. Is there anything in the way? Is there anything that's holding us up? Is there anything we could do different? Is there any reason we couldn't do it? Even though we have that 9:00, we still have the permission to go through there. So to your point, I think a steady compliant may still feel that way. I just want to make sure we're doing everything on our side, because usually, and we're not doing anybody any favors by letting them off the hook either. Once they leave, now I think the 9:00's pretty good, but we have a risk factor here.
Right. Anytime you walk away without the sale, you've got a risk.
We have a risk, and so I just want to make sure I'm leaving everything. I'm not leaving anything on the table. That I'm
Right.
on the field, giving it my all on there, and risking. We're so worried about people feeling pressured. I'm just worried about meeting their need, and I'm also worried about if I'm so confident in my ability. In serving them and by asking all the questions that I've earned that right to go there. So we want to do that. Now, two things. Wrap this up real quick because this is really good. Anything else you want to say or just button up here before we roll and go?
Well, no, I think the subject matter is great. I truly love objection handling, and I learn every time I do something with you. But I think that, again, this is one aspect. I think it's one of the more critical aspects. But if you don't get those first things, if you don't create that rapport quickly, and oftentimes we're kind of in that rapport building section, we're kind of trying to show them how smart we are. And instead of asking relative questions about them and their lives, which is where I create more rapport quickly, is just through asking questions,
right?
Or those kinds of things. Anyway, so like I said, we do a whole webinar, 7-8 week training on sales. Mm-hmm. There's more than just objection handling. This is kind of a fun one, and it's a great opportunity. So.
Well, great. Well, thanks, and thanks for being tough on me today, as always, and making me go through the fire there. Want to thank you for your.
My pleasure.
Oh, I know it is. I know it's too. You enjoy that too much. So, folks, I say to make this stick, it's really important that you to refine your craft and master the art of overcoming objections. You role play, you rehearse, you put that as part of your disciplines. That you make sure that you are scripted and planned in your approach. You take time to do this. If you want more help refining your craft, schedule a complimentary session with Don or myself, and we'll walk you through that. Also, you can request Mastering Objections and Handling the Sale, a printed document on that. And just for listening, you can access a free WebEx series on Mastering Objections. So take advantage of that. Thanks so much. Thanks, Don. Take care. Have a great day. We'll talk to you guys soon. All right.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Smart Sales Solutions podcast. For more information, go to smartsalessolutions.com.